Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. I'm very excited to have you all here, especially since, well, we have a full house today. Yeah, my name is Laura Geuchert. I'm heading the industry team at TELANTO. This is a webinar that's shared for university and industry.
My name is Raquel Martinez, and I'd like to welcome you all to this first edition of the TELANTO Deep Dive series, where we hope to dig a little bit deeper into the truth of industry-university collaborations. And for that purpose, we have a series of very exciting panelists that I will briefly introduce just to give you the names, and then they'll give a much better description of their work in each of the respective institutions. So again, to say welcome to you all and thank you for coming, and I hope we have a very successful session today. So with us, we have Brad Henderson, lecturer at UC Davis in the United States. Thank you, Brad. We have Urte Hotje. I'm sorry if I did not say your last name correctly. Sometimes it does happen. My German's not that good. Who is Director of Market Research at Clarios. And then we have Jim Andriotis, Head of Innovation at Cavotech. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. I am very excited to have you here, and I'm sure we're going to produce some insightful commentary about experiential learning and what it's like to bring
on the webinar screen
this challenges into the into practice. So I'd like to, as I said, the purpose of this webinar is to give a truthful look into what it means, when you spot a lack of maybe innovation, or you want to bring something different into the classroom if you're a professor. So get a deep, an insightful look from the stakeholders themselves, from the industry, in Urte and Jim's case, and from the university side in the case of Brad. And so for that, then this is the purpose of the webinar, and then we'll have a section of Q&A section at the end, where you will be able to ask some questions, and we welcome you to participate as we go along, and we'll do our best to get to them by the end of the webinar. So without further ado, I think we can move on to the official introduction of the panelists, and maybe along with the introduction, you can also just go right in and tell the audience, which I think is a very nice starting point, what is it that you spotted in your organization that pushed you to work with TELANTO, what was lacking and what made you, take this step?
All right, so I'm Brad Henderson. I'm a faculty at University of California, Davis. I'm an engineer, I'm an author, and I am also an educator. So I'm bringing all those things together. And my specialty at UC Davis is helping engineers learn communication skills and professionalism skills. So I work at UC Davis, University of California, Davis, one of the UC campuses in California. There are 11. We are the third largest behind UC Berkeley and UCLA. We are known as the #1 sustainable university in the United States and to some of the world. So there's a very big outreach push right now for global engagement and sustainability. So what about my class? So the engineering curriculums are loaded with technical classes, and it's very hard to insert some communication and professionalism training into those classes. I operate a class that's autonomous, that's separate from the regular technical series. And the biggest challenge that I have in my class is bringing realistic engineering content into the classroom for students to write about and for students to use to practice their professionalism skills. This has been a challenge for me for many, many years. I've done outreach to industry myself. The problem is that putting industrial challenges in my class is a little untraditional. Typically, the university does engagements with industry for capstone design projects, but smaller projects before new terrain. So I was at a loss. I was running out of material to present. My outreach efforts failed. And then one day, TELANTO contacted me on LinkedIn, and we started a partnership that is turning out to be very productive.
Okay, thank you, Brad. Thank you. I think we were very lucky to reach out to you when we did, and we're very excited that we're, in the second edition of your course with us. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. What about you, Urte or Jim? A little bit of introduction, and what was it that led you to work with TELANTO and engage in these collaborations?
Okay, so maybe I go next. So my name is Urte Hotje. I'm located in Hannover, Germany, and I'm working for Clarios, the leading automotive and heavy-duty battery supplier. So in every third car on the globe, you will find one of our batteries. Even though not every consumer may know us, we are there. So the reason why we started TELANTO, and it took us almost a year in our company to get to the point where we said, okay, we get some funding to do that, is that we need fresh eyes on some of the topics that we internally discuss and we don't really get it moving. So maybe we will come to examples later, but one thing where we currently cooperate with students from Brad's course, it's something trivial like analyzing our European website. And it's so interesting to see how American young students view the European battery automotive world and what they would like to see on this page. And this was really eye-opening at some aspects where we said, oh yeah, that kind of makes sense. We've never thought about, and this is what, for me personally, this is most beneficial, to really get some fresh thoughts, fresh thinking from fresh minds who are academically skilled and may have different perspective on topics that we deal with day out and day in.
Okay, yeah, I think it's true. We all develop sort of like tunnel vision once we've been in the position or in the company for a certain amount of time. So yeah, that's interesting. What about you, Jim?
Well, I'm the head of innovation here at Cavatech, and I've been with the group for 15 years. And a lot of our needs, they tend to overlap Urte's quite a bit in regards to getting a fresh set of eyes on problems that we've been internally kind of pushing down the hill for a while, but never really getting a chance to get to it, right? And we know they're critical to our business. We know they're critical to our markets, especially because of what we do, right? We've always been a leader in electrification for ports, for mining, for industrial vehicles, right? So with the shift, especially to battery electrification, the need for a cable to be attached to the vehicle is going away, but you still need to charge it. And this is where we're moving into how do we charge the vehicles efficiently in an industrial setting, right? And to have a set of eyes, especially from UC Davis, which is kind of in the hot spot of environmental movements towards, for instance, green ports, right? And get that perspective is invaluable, right? So it's been a great collaboration so far with the team, and the students have been giving great input, right? And then also, we are an international company, so the ability of a TELANTO platform to give us a global scope and say, how does the one in another country look at it? How do they look at it here? And to be able to mesh that together into one, it's really critical for us. So yeah, it's been enjoyable so far.
Yeah, that's
great to
hear. Yeah, exactly. So you already teased a little bit of, what was it that was missing at the beginning, and sort of like a taste of what's happening while you're collaborating, because both you and Urte are working with Brad and his students on these challenges. I guess because we have that teaser, and we'll go into more detail as to, what insights and outcomes have progressed from this collaboration that started a few months ago. I think it's interesting for the audience to get a sense of what was like the beginning of the process. So for the industry side, how do you identify and scope the challenges that you think are ready and primed to be worked on by the student teams? And you, Brad, on your side, how do you get your class to be at a point where, okay, they're ready to engage with industry projects? And how is that process of, meeting the challenges and getting the collaboration on the road? Because I think I know when I talk to professors and university stakeholders all the time, and Laura does the same with their industry clients, it's one of the biggest doubts. How do you make this happen at the beginning in a way that's efficient and that brings value from the very start?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, I'll go from the teacher's perspective. So how do you start a TELANTO collaboration from the university side? So my class, I have a set of learning objectives. I have a set of metrics for testing whether or not the students fulfill on those objectives. Those are graded assignments. It's a series of short documents that they write in my class, and professionalism, tasks, and exercises. So TELANTO, what I'm looking for is a small scale, high impact project that we can put within a 6-week box. So UC Davis operates on a quarter system, 10 weeks. I have a lot of material to cover. I have the students write a series of paper on their TELANTO project. It starts about week 4. So the project has to be the right kind. It has to be the right scope or scale. And I give that information to TELANTO. I sit back and wait. TELANTO goes back and looks for companies with challenges like that on a worldwide basis. They come back to me with a series of challenges. I have an initial conversation with prospective industry partners to make sure that we're a match. Pretty much all the time we are. TELANTO does a really good job of finding the right projects. And then what I do is I usually teach 2 classes of 25. So that's 50 students a quarter. I'm looking for 8 companies that can give the students about 13 or 14 team projects. So once TELANTO and I agree upon the industry partners, then those opportunities are posted on the TELANTO cloud, and the students get to go online and lobby for their first, second, and third choice. TELANTO takes that information in, puts it through an algorithm, and out pops a set of student teams for the quarter. I have found that those matches have been very effective. Only in a couple of cases have I had to do a resort, which I can. And then after the students have their projects, to make sure they have enough information, I have the industry partners fill out an intake specification sheet, because engineering students need specifications for their projects. And then finally, new this quarter, I had each industry sponsor create a little meet and greet video, just 3 minutes of here's what my face and the face of my company looks like, to put the students at ease. After the matches, we press go and we are off and running. And from my perspective, it's very, very easy, and it's very, very hands-on from the TELANTO side, which is nice for me in the beginning.
Yeah, it's very nice to hear that, Brad. And how do you see students reacting? And I think also it will be interesting now, we'll hear from Urte and Jim from their industry side, but how do students react to this variety of challenges that get brought to the platform? And I know Urte and Jim are also working with several universities, or there's a possibility to work with several universities on maybe the same projects, different projects. So how does diversity affect the students and their motivations, and you as a professor as well?
Yeah. Well, so a little bit later in the webinar, we're going to talk about how to propel a TELANTO project through the kickoff session the students do with the industry partners all the way through to the finish. For the initial setup, so my classroom has a variety of engineering majors in it. Civil engineers, through chemical engineers, through mechanical engineers, environmental engineers. So we're looking for projects that are going to meet the needs of that variety of students. I also have, UC Davis has an incredibly diverse population. One of the things that I really like about the TELANTO projects is they're global, which means that it's likely that the students are going to be interacting with multilingual partners, and where English is a business language, not necessarily a principal language. And that's the way it is for a lot of students at UC Davis because of our diversity and because of our international student population. So I've found that enough variety of projects has always come onto the table the first couple of rounds that we've tried this process.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, Brad. Urte, Jim, what is it for you? What's it been for you to come to TELANTO with probably obviously a set of ideas of projects that you like to work on? What has been the process of identifying those needs and scoping them and then getting them onto the platform and presenting it and getting to meet the universities and sort of seeing whether those projects could be worked on certain universities or otherwise?
So it was a journey to get to the challenges, to have a first touch point with universities, and TELANTO helped us to navigate through the process very nicely. So at the beginning, we came up with a list of crazy ideas about things that we always wanted to know. And then we had our first touch point. So at TELANTO, you call it challenge coaching, where Christian from your team sat together with us and reviewed the list and said, yeah, maybe this could be a challenge. Let's think about it. And then we really had discussions, and he asked questions about what is it that you really would like to know? What are the sub-questions? What would be the scope? So in the discussion, in this coaching, we really get to the point that we were able to be more clear on what the content of such a challenge should look like. And that was really helpful because it forced us to think through away from this fluffy idea and this could be something to this is a crystal clear challenge, and those are the things that we would like to cover to get covered by the students. So that was very helpful, and I really appreciated that you were part of the touch points in the matching discussions with the professors, because that was my first time beginning of this year, and it really helped to understand how the process is, what the expectations are. So I really liked it that we really were well supported throughout the process. And then, but I take you as an example because you were my first challenge partner. I really liked the way that it was really easygoing. TELANTO opened the door for us, and based from that, it was easygoing in regards of what kind of information was needed. The introduction video, first I was scared to do it for grad students, and then I liked the idea. So I really think it was really easy, because when I had the first touch point with the student groups, we kind of really were in the middle of the discussion. So really, we didn't need to warm up too much, but they knew a little bit about my company, about my person. And so we really could start to dig into the work. And I have the impression that the students were really engaged. So they wanted to know a lot of questions, which was very nice for us. So we knew where we need to provide more support, and they came up with great ideas on how they could tackle this challenge. So that was really helpful for us, because we made it quite open and said, this is what we want to know, please find a way how to get there. And they were really creative with conducting surveys and doing some mystery shopping. So they were really very, very innovative in how they approached the challenge. So that was really impressive.
Okay, thank you, Urte. I think what you say, it's important to have these initial conversations and this little taste of who is it that I'm going to be working with in order to decrease this uncertainty and feel connected. And I think this is something that I see all the time, and I'm glad that you said so, that there's this motivation both from the industry and the university side to really know each other and dig deep into the project and establish a very successful collaboration with trust and openness. And I think that's what delivers great experiences for everyone. What about you, Jim? What was the initial process of getting those challenges ready to go and meeting grad students in the first time?
I'll say that the coaching with Christian was a huge, huge benefit for us. You know, because of the industries we're in right now, they're going through such radical change and at a very quick pace. We didn't have a challenge of how, if we can put challenges together. All right, we had too many, if anything, but they were all quite big as well. Right. So, like, the best way I could say it is we were trying to boil the ocean in one shot. Right. So what Christian really helped us do is to take these large challenges and say, all right, we can probably break this down into step by step. What do we do first? What's the next step? What's the next step? What's the next step? It really helped us develop these, like Brad mentioned it, these digestible chunks of challenges, so it can work well with students within a certain time frame, right? So the coaching was invaluable, right? Including also on how to structure the challenge, how to prepare it, how to set deliverables, how to understand milestones, and it was really great. So when we got to the conversations with Brad and the students, that the ease of going from the TELANTO platform to working directly with the professors and the students was actually quite seamless. You know, we've done university collaborations in the past outside of the TELANTO platform, and the experiences there they can be painful sometimes in regards to some of the things you have to put together and the specificity in which you have to present a collaboration, right? In this case, it was great to collaborate with the professor at this level and say, okay, what would work with your class? What works for us? Okay, let's do it, go. And the best thing is, once the go is hit, it goes, right? There's no humming and hawing or anything between. The challenge is off and running. And it's really impressive, truly is. And the students are great. They've been so engaged. And like Urte said, they're asking questions where, even though we might have been looking at the problem for a while, I was like, I didn't quite think of it from that angle, right?
Yeah.
So you build that in, you build that into the challenge, right? So it's been very good.
Yeah, it's sort of like a constant process of, you know, getting always a fresh perspective, and like you say, ideas pop up as you continue to dig deeper and get more information. So thank you for that. I think that sets up the stage very nicely. As okay, so we've gotten to a point where we already have the challenge, and like Jim said, it's ready to go. We're hands-on with the project. The next logical step, obviously, and I think the audience will appreciate to know, okay, so once you've identified, okay, this is a challenge that I can bring to my students if you're a professor, or this is a course that will bring value to my objectives in my company. What's after the kickoff? So when you already have the teams that, you know, are going to be working on your challenge, what does that process look like in terms of project management, and how do you manage, you know, your expectations, student expectations? What does it look like while you're working on the challenge towards those goals that have been set out at the beginning?
All right. So I have an architecture for running TELANTO projects in my class. I'm always open. It's whatever the client wants, we try to provide. And one of the things about a TELANTO challenge is you have to get away from the academic mindset that we're the subject matter experts. In this case, we're not. We're providing a service to industry partners. We're accessing very fresh content, new technology, in more of a service role. So my goal is at the end of 6 weeks for the students to put together a final report that gives the industry partner a tangible deliverable. So in addition to, you know, aha moments along the way, I want them to deliver something concrete. So how do we set that up and move that along? The challenges start with a kickoff meeting between the students and the industry partners. And in that meeting, I encourage my students to listen carefully, engage in dialogue. And when they leave that meeting, I would like them to have a crystal clear idea of what the project objective is and what the rules of the game are. So, and what the final deliverable is that the company is looking for. To make sure the students heard that, to make sure that they're still on the same page of the industry partner, then I have them echo back that conversation in their first status report email. And I call that's the contract. And projects in industry, effective ones, start that way. The next step is, since the students have access to a huge library and a lot of resources for research that maybe the companies don't. The second thing I have them do is, we call it put up the periscope, and they look around and they do intensive research and benchmarking, and they collect everything they can and give those goodies to the industry sponsors. That is one of their interim deliverables. It gives me an opportunity also to work with our research library on campus, and a key player in moving the TELANTO projects along is my research specialist, Melinda Livas, at the UC Davis Library. So we're working together as a team to make sure the students get the information to do an adequate initial up periscope, look around, get pertinent research, get benchmarks, and then bam, they're off and running. I asked them next to think about brainstorming, come up with an initial set of ideas for solving the problem, and to be very open in their thinking about this, to have conversations with their industry partners about this. And then I have the students get proactive and do a sort of those ideas based on the initial contract and the company's terms and conditions using a KT decision matrix. So they go through 2 iterations of decision making. So decision making iteration 1 is viable ideas into a best choice solution or solutions, further discussion with industry partners, where they take that best choice idea and they refine it and they expand it. They make sure that it still fits with the project objective and the project's design specifications. And then ultimately they package it in an extensive final report. And along the way, they're doing weekly meetings with the industry partner. They are communicating with status report emails. They learn a lot about writing bottom line first short documents, the type that are that industry managers want. And they also learn about project management. So they're exposed to, like I said, a KT decision matrix. They're exposed to a Gantt chart. And then along the way, they learn more things about project management from the industry partners. What do they do at their companies to move things along efficiently and effectively? So it moves fast. I've worked in industry before. I've worked in aerospace. I've worked also for Hewlett Packard Inkjet. A real world project, time is money. So when you press go, you gotta go. You have to have a clear timeline, clear deliverables, and you know what? The students can do that.
Exactly.
Yeah, and they come through.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a myth, that students are not ready to tackle, real life challenges. And I think it's amazing that we're getting the experience to showcase this, highlight this, and well, your students are living proof that this is, that now they're ready, they're talented, and like you said, motivated, and with the right spirit and set of skills, and also you and all the staff at UC Davis facilitating that they get all the information and that they're adequately ready and prepared to, work on this project. So thank you for that, Brad. I think it was really wonderful, and it really takes us through the journey of basically a TELANTO collaboration. So thank you. Urte, Jim, what is your take on, once the kickoff has happened and you get to, work with the students in terms of how do you, communicate with them? How do you manage, these weekly meetings that we've been discussing? Because obviously maybe some people are like, oh, okay, how much time do I have to dedicate to ensure that this is a collaboration that will be successful and not sort of like a black box scenario where I don't know what I will end up achieving at the end. So what is it like for you?
So for me, it was very smooth. So at the first session, we discussed together with the student what the deliverable should be, the expectation. And then they sat together and organized themselves to come up with a plan and say, we believe until the end of our challenge, we will be able to deliver X, Y, Z. and in week 1 we can present this one. And so that was really project management from their side. So they provided a suggestion on how they see the project or the challenge moving. And then we agreed on a cadence. And what we did, we meet every week through Zoom. So we had time to review what they came up with and then discuss it, clarify open questions, and discuss next steps. So that was really a routine that for the teams I work with worked quite well, to really have this regular touch points and making sure that things got moving and unclear issues can be solved in a very short period of time.
Yeah, I think that really ensures success, that when you have this sort of close relationship with the students where they, can they're comfortable, asking you questions, and you're also, maybe pushing them in this direction if you see that the challenge could be better taken care of. So yeah, thank you, Urte. Jim, what is your take on this, taking out the challenges and getting to work side by side with the students?
This was watching project management 101, to be honest with you. They went in there, we set a scope, we set the deliverables, we set the timelines. The students they had a good grasp of project management theory going into it, to be honest with you, right? To the point where we said, okay. So, and what I really appreciated was like Brad mentioned, is they come back with a project charter or a contract, right? Where it says, here's clearly what we're going to do. Here's how we're going to approach it. And here's how we're going to go forward, right? And they tell you, and many of them even supplied the Gantt charts as well. So for me, being on a project management background, I'm like, oh, this is heaven for me, right? So I was quite happy to see that. No, they're quite, I'll say this, they're quite independent already, right? Like for me, I set up a cadence where I would ask for weekly reports, email report, right? But I always left the door open and said, if you guys have a question, if you need any input, feel free and we'll set up a Zoom call. And many of them did, right? So we made sure that the door was always open to them to ask the questions. If they saw the challenge going a different way, we'd give feedback. If we saw a deliverable, we said the challenge should go a little bit this way or that way, we'd give the feedback. So it's, yeah, I think it's been very successful in how it's been run.
Yeah, I think you mentioned an interesting topic, which is flexibility. It happens, I think, from the beginning when you have these ideas and how you work to, present them in a way that can be understood by academia and vice versa, which sometimes it doesn't happen if you don't have the right person guiding you or if you don't have the right mindset. It also happens in the scoping. I think when you meet for the first time, you have to have that flexibility and that creative space to say, okay, this is the idea that I have, but I can see how your course can also produce benefits to my original idea. So I think flexibility is definitely a key ingredient in this recipe. And I think we're very lucky to have industry and university partners that are always game to be flexible and be open to new collaboration opportunities. So thank you for this, because I think you've explained it very nice how it is from your perspective, what it's like to work on these challenges. And now that we're reaching the end of this discussion, and then we'll have some minutes for the Q&A section that Laura will present. I guess as a final sort of question, what are the, and now that you're approaching, you've already come to the end and you have experienced these collaborations, what is you mentioned a little bit, but the outcome and the insights that you have achieved from these collaborations, and also maybe down the line, because if you're going to be doing this again, which obviously we hope that you are, keep working on these challenges. What is it that you hope to even achieve further?
All right. So with me, several things happened. One, bringing a TELANTO project into my classroom supercharged the performance of my students all the way through from week 1 to week 10. And they were more motivated on some of the other material that we covered in class. Interestingly enough, there was a lot of sustainability projects or angles for this time around. The quarter before I tried TELANTO, I ran a class. I came up with a sustainability project to develop a fully self-sustainable homestead off the grid for a high-end real estate development. I thought it was a great idea. But it wasn't real enough for the students. They still looked at me as Henderson, the instructor of the class. So they weren't working with me with the high stakes feel that they feel when they have an industry partner. So I've tried to come up with the projects without outside help from industry partners, and they work okay, but it just works so much better all the way through the class when I have that engagement and it gets real. Also the students, we didn't really mention this, but everything that went down for the last couple of quarters was done digitally, doing Zoom. So the students get an opportunity to do global outreach with a partner. Most of our partners were over in Europe, so there's an 8-hour time gap. So the students had to manage their projects through Zoom sessions without ever engaging face-to-face, same time zone in most cases with their industry partners. So that is a phenomenal opportunity for them in preparing them for the workplace. I didn't really think about that. Also, the students exit my class with a golden nugget to put on their resume. So senior engineers, they want to have a good resume and they want to have some industrial experience on there. And if they haven't had an internship, bam, they got one. They have that golden nugget. And then the final thing is there's a huge teach the teacher element. So I learn a lot as a professional from our partners. I learn more about project management. I am inspired as an engineer and creative thinker. I learned a lot, and I can't wait till the next round because, I'm getting stuff too. It's a win, it's a win, it's a win.
Okay, yeah, thank you. It's nice to see how this sort of environment produces, benefits for everyone. Obviously, the students are at the center of this in terms of having this experience to, like you say, bring real projects that motivates them and gives them valuable experiences that they can put into their CV. But it was very nice to see professors embracing it so openly and saying, we're here also to learn. We're not the experts, like you said. We're here also to listen to industry, and it's wonderful when that happens. So what about you, Urte and Jim? What are your sort of golden nuggets in this? I like that term, Brad, the golden nugget from your sides.
The students do too.
So the golden nuggets are really, as I mentioned in the introduction, this fresh perspective, because this is priceless. I mean, you could never go to a market research firm and say, please give me a fresh perspective of topic ABC. How would they? Because most of the companies we work with are very well known in the industry, so they know our industry by heart. But people who have fresh eyes, fresh mind, and totally new perspective, they ask crazy but very interesting and very, very helpful questions. That's number one. And I think we wouldn't get the questions from someone who would be in the industry. And two, they come up with new things they've learned at university, or they come with new tools or new approaches. And this is so helpful, and what we shouldn't underestimate. They are generation Z. So they have a view on the world which is different from most middle to higher managers in our company due to the age gap. And this is an additional fresh perspective to see how does young generation see specific topics that we face as challenges. So that's, for me personally, very inspiring to work with young people, fresh minds, and their perspective on the world and what they regard as important. So that's really my gold nuggets.
Yeah, it's a good one. This disruptive element to establish, routines and ways of thinking. Like we mentioned, the tunnel vision is sort of very, I think, extensive to many people. So I think it's very interesting that students are able to bring these perspectives. What about you, Jim? Sort of like closing this roundtable sort of segment that we've had.
Fresh eyes on the problem. I know we've said it a couple of times already, but it really is the core of it. Especially for a company like what we do. We focus on industries that are conservative. The ports industry is conservative. The mining industry is conservative. Airports are quite conservative, even though people think they're quite technologically advanced. To make a change in some of these industries takes decades in some cases, right? So for us to have the opportunity to interact with university students that, like what they said, will ask the crazy ideas and say, well, why have you guys been doing it like this for 20 years? Right? And it'll be like, oh, why have we been doing it like this for 20 years? Right? So for us, I think that is a golden nugget. It's just to work with the younger generation, get their perspective, because they do look at things differently than us, right? And to understand what we can do differently is a huge benefit for us. So I'll say that's our golden nugget as well. The interaction, the next generation, getting the fresh set of eyes, and bringing a difference to what's coming next in our industries.
Okay, I think that was a very nice way to end it with, I think the key expression of the webinar, the golden nugget, which I think obviously it's what everyone's after. So thank you everyone. I think it was a very insightful conversation. Even myself, that I'm in, sort of this environment, I still learn so many things, and I'm so inspired to hear your stories and then, the good things that are coming out of your efforts. So I'd like to thank you all, for participating with us and for being with us on this webinar. And I'll just pass it over to Laura to answer some questions as sort of the ending part of our webinar.
Yeah, thanks, Raquel, and thanks everyone for this insightful conversation. It was great to hear your view on the collaborations that you've been engaging in. And yeah, I think we have like 4 minutes left for Q&A. We have had a lot of questions throughout the webinar, so I tried to cluster them a little bit, but I will just go one by one. So the first one would be for you, Brad, and that's, can you tell us which projects work best in your classroom?
So there's a lot of topics that work. The key to success for me is, one, I want the level of technicality to be able to be accommodated by, first year and sophomore and a little bit of junior core engineering skills. All right. So some of the projects this time around involved, one of the deliverables was you got to write some Python code. So one of those projects, one team had trouble with that because they weren't at that coding level yet. So they were able to produce an algorithm, but not the code. So the variety of topics, fine. The main thing is have to be small scope, high impact, and also a project that involves a couple iterations of decision making, looking at a field of initial ideas, come down to best choice, further refinement of the idea, and then go. It's the classic design cycle for engineering design. Has to fit that. Has to fit that.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting, and I think this goes a little bit into what Urte and Jim, what you said about having this coach who helps you unpack the challenges, scope it right, so that you, Brad, can then move it directly into the classroom. Yeah, so thanks for that. And then, well, let's do one more question. And I promise we will get back to every questions later, either Raquel or me, or you can always feel free to reach out to us, obviously. But the second question is from someone, I guess, that does not know TELANTO that well, because he asked if TELANTO is only for engineering. I don't know, maybe Raquel, maybe we can answer that.
Surely. No, it's actually, it is true that in this case, Brad is sort of, his field is engineering, and we're talking about engineering topics, but it definitely is not. And we focus on a variety of fields, because as long as there's an input from the university side and the industry side, we can make it happen thanks to our platform and network. So now we work on business projects, we work on even psychology, GSI, physics. It's quite diverse. Obviously, there's some trending topics, but it's definitely not focused on engineering, although it is a very, like Brad said, sustainability. The sustainability angle is something that everyone's worried about and concerned and wants to explore further. But I know it's not just for engineers, and we'll do more sessions, because I think this has been great. We've heard some great ideas, and we'll do more sessions of this deep dive TELANTO series. So we will bring and focus on other fields of expertise later on, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. That's and I mean, as Raquel said, we do have trending topics like IT, everything that's related to data, everything that's related to business, obviously engineering, but there are a huge amount of topics that are covered. And yeah, I mean, being considerate of the time, we are unfortunately at the end already of our roundtable of our event. Yeah, thanks a lot, everyone, for participating. Thanks to our panelists. Thanks, Raquel, for doing the moderation. And
yeah, thank you, everyone. It was wonderful to talk to you and to hear your experience. And yeah, we'll be in touch. And if any of the if the audience has questions, you'll have our contact information, so you can reach out, and we'll be happy to give you more insights. But thank you, Brad, Urte, and Jen. It was wonderful having you here today.
thanks.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, take care. Have a good day.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.